What's up? Welcome back to the channel, Detroit Poker. In this video, we're going to be talking about downswings, running bad. This is a topic that I think a lot of people can relate to, and they can be very tough to get through. So before we get into this video, if you like poker strategy, hand analysis, and just poker content in general, you should definitely subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. So with that being said, let's jump into the video right now. So for this first example, I'm just going to give you a real quick backstory. The last 2 or 3 weeks, we've basically been breaking even, you know, like when you flop sets and you make flushes and things like that, and you get your opponent to put all their money in and you're 70%, 80%, 90% favorite, and those are usually the spots where you make a lot of money. Well, unfortunately, for the past few weeks, we've been losing the majority of spots like that. So that being said, definitely starting to accumulate some negative emotion. We're sitting at this table in Detroit. It's 2-5 no limit game, and we are on the button. We have $850 in our stack, and we get dealt 5-4 of hearts. This table is pretty loose, and by the time the action reaches us, there's 2 limpers. Decide to over limp with the 5-4 hearts, and regular in the small blind decides to raise up to $30. We do have some information about this guy. We played a little bit with him in the weeks leading up to this. And both the limpers make the call for 30. And we make the call and close the action. So we're going off to the flop 4 ways. And the flop comes pretty good. King, queen, 6, all hearts. So not only did we flop a flush, we have 60% of a straight flush as well. That's pretty cool, right? So immediately when the flop comes out, the small blind looks at his hole cards. And he places a bet for $50. And pretty quickly, both the limpers fold out, and the action's on us. Just really quick, pretty valuable piece of information about this guy. I don't know if it's just versus me or versus everyone, but he just hates to fold, and if he has an ace of hearts, he would just never fold here. He is playing approximately $475 on this flop. I think given the read that this guy just hates to fold, and he's like a lookup artist, I think the best play here is probably just an offensive overbet, just jam for $475 and let this guy figure it out. I do expect him to call if he has an ace of hearts in his hand, which is what I think real time. So we announce all in, and we move a stack of green over the line, indicating an all in. And our opponent takes another look at his hole cards, and he hesitates for maybe 10 or 15 seconds, and he announces call, and he starts moving his chips over the line. So we get the pot sorted out, and I remember when the dealer's sorting the pot out, I'm just thinking to myself, like, hold. Like, f***ing hold this time. Hold, you know, that's what I'm thinking. So we're going off to the river, heads up, and all the action is closed. And the dealer puts a turn out, and it is a 10 of hearts. And the river is a 2 of clubs. So we table our hand, and our opponent quickly tables ace of hearts, 9 of spades. In this session, we're already off to a bad start. We are approximately 6 hours into a session, 2-5 game in Detroit, Michigan. And basically, we've just been bleeding all night long. These games are really loose, and we just haven't been able to make a hand or get anything going. It's nothing that hasn't happened before. It's just standard stuff. If you play poker all the time, you're going to have sessions like this. So that being said, sitting there munching on some chicken wings. And I told the dealer to deal me out, and he did oblige us for 1 hand. However, on the second chicken wings hand, he pitches us cards, probably out of habit. I mean, I totally understand. And this guy in early position just moves in, first into the pot for $85, and he's been getting beat up, and I think he just lost a big hand. So the action folds to us, and sitting there with $800 in the hijack, and we look down at a couple of aces. So, well, this is pretty cool. Like, get aces, and I'm just kind of, my first thought is like, okay, like, I guess I'll just call, and I would be delighted if someone else comes into this pot and or re-raises me. So we make the call for 85. However, no one else comes into the pot. It's probably obvious that I must have a good hand. Everyone on the table is aware that I just told the dealer not to deal me in, and they probably know that I'm not going to call $85 when I'm eating with a shitty hand. So that being said, we're going off to flop, turn, and river, heads up, and all the action is closed. And as soon as the action does close, the dude in early position tables his hand, and he puts out pocket 9s. And we give him the bad news, and we put our pocket aces on the table. And I mean, this guy's a rec player, but he starts moaning about like how terrible his night has been going, and
Of course.
oh, it's just my luck. And my first thoughts are, to be honest, I was a little irritated with hearing this because, like, dude, like I've been running like shit for weeks, and dude, at the same time, like I understand, like the guy was getting beat up, and he's a rec player, and I bite my tongue. I don't say anything. I'm just like, dude, you might be lucky here. Like I've been running pretty bad too, so don't count yourself out yet. I just say something nice to the guy, and dealer puts out the flop, and it's queen, queen, 5, rainbow. The turn comes a 9, and the river comes a 7. So this dude is going to win this pot with a full house, and I thought in the moment, like, that's kind of sick. I told this guy to deal me out, and like he deals me in, and then we get aces, and it's 80%, and then, it's $85 out of 2-5 games. It's nothing. It's not a big deal. Like the money's not a big deal. I just, it just adds a little bit more frustration to the pile and whatever. I'm not going to go on tilt overhand like this. It's not going to make me like play bad or anything like that. It's just kind of just another bee sting. So that being said, I just want to let you know, like, these things are going to happen and they may drag on for a long, long time. And it may be for way more than $85. And I do have another example to go over. So let's get into that right now. All right, so this next spot, this is from a different day, different casino, 2-5, no limit hold'em. Kind of similar story. This is like Friday night, and I've been kind of getting beat up a little bit. It's a Friday, and for lack of a better term, just Friday nights, just nothing but fuckery. Like people just playing bullshit hands, and like you pretty much have to make hands to make money on Fridays and Saturdays and really lose games. I mean, the games are really great, but if you can't make hands, it's going to, you're going to bleed. And this is totally par for the course. It's nothing I haven't dealt with, 1,000 times before. But, you do get a little bit frustrated. And not to mention that this is the same downswing. I'm accumulating emotion just from running bad, and just kind of got some frustration just lingering over me, a little bit of negative mind frame. And I'm really trying to fight it. So that being said, we are in the small blind. We have $800 stack. And we get dealt king jack of clubs, and the hijack and the button both limp in. Obviously, this looks super weak by both of them. They're playing similar stack sizes to us. They both cover us slightly. And there's this guy in the big blind who's basically playing every hand, and he's super loose, and he's been getting lucky in a lot of spots, and he's got a lot of money. So definitely going to be raising up this king jack of clubs. So we bump it up to 30. And what do you know? The guy in the big blind calls, and the hijack and the button both fold. We're going to go off to the flop, heads up versus this dude, and he covers by a bunch. So the flop comes pretty interesting. Comes 10-9-8 with one club, rainbow. So we flop an open-ender, and one end of it is to the stone nuts. We're just going to start out with a bet and just go from there. So we place a bet for $50, and the dude in the big blind like basically insta-calls us. So, okay, that's fine. We've seen him do this a bunch before. Bottom pair, gut shot, whatever, It's not surprising that this guy's calling this flop. So we're going off to the turn, heads up, and turn comes a 4 of clubs. So now we improve to a flush draw to go with our open ender. And I'm not taking my foot off the gas against this guy. I feel we have quite a bit of equity, and it is possible that he might fold like some weaker parts of his range. So we just decided to place another bet for 110. Pretty quickly, big blind calls again. Not quite as quickly as on the flop, but within 5 seconds, he makes a call for 110. So I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, club, queen, like something. So we're going off to the river, heads up, and the river comes another 4. So we brick out, and we're sitting here on this river against this calling station, and we have king high. And I mean, I do contemplate like just hitting him with like $300, $400 bet, but I just don't think that this guy is ever going to fold. If he called twice, he probably has a 10. That's what it looks like to me. He has a 10, and if he has a 10, he's just never folding. We just check and decide to let this guy win, and he checks back, and I table my hand right away, and the dude turns over king 10 offsuit. So it's whatever. Maybe I could have played it better. You could always play a hand a little bit better, I guess. I remember just being kind of frustrated, but quickly I catch myself, and I'm like, dude, snap out of it. All right, so I'm sure that you want to know, how can you deal with these things? How can you get used to it? Point number 1. This is going to happen to you literally thousands and thousands of times, bad beats and just running like shit, you're just going to have to get used to it. You're going to have to accept it. You're going to have to embrace it. This is just part of the game that you're going to have to get used to. There's just no way to sugarcoat it. So number 2 on my bullet point list is build a callus, pain threshold. Basically, you're going to have to develop mental toughness. It's that simple. This is no different than if you were working a job and, you know, somebody at work did something to piss you off, or you didn't get a promotion you were sure you were going to get, or whatever. Like, I want to bring up this book. It's called The Mental Game of Poker. I put it in the video description of all my videos for quite some time now because it's a really valuable book, but you just have to have this book. You have to read it, and basically it's going to give you the tools and the answers of how to get through downswings. It's going to help you to work on yourself as a person, develop mental toughness, all that good stuff. And if you use my links in the video description below, it'll help my channel out a little bit. So I would certainly appreciate, the support. So the third point, you got to realize this shit happens to everyone. If right now you're watching this video because you're running terrible and you feel like you're cursed, there's nothing you can do about it. It's out of your control. So we're human beings, we're emotional, but at the same time, it's illogical to get upset about something like this. Like, you can't control the actions of your opponent, and you can't control what cards get put on the table. All you can control is your decisions. The goal is you show up every single day, you make good decisions. In the long term, if you make better decisions than your opponents do, and you get your money in good, you will win the money. Just keep showing up, keep putting the time in, and things will happen for you if you're playing good. But, bonus tip here, number 4, you got to be able to realize if you're playing bad, because that's going to happen too. If you start tilting and just, punting off money, you're going to fail every single time until you get a handle on it. So get that book in the video description below. That'll help you a lot. So don't forget to check out some of my other videos. I have lots of vlogs from 1-2, 2-5. I even have one where I played some 5-10. I also have an entire video series on how to beat 1-2 no limit hold'em. Also, don't forget to stop by the website, detroitpoker.net. You can support the channel by getting a t-shirt or a hoodie from my website. I also offer one-on-one coaching packages. Subscribe if you like my content. Ring the bell so you don't miss anything. And I will see you in the next video. Don't forget, smash that like button if you like the video. And drop me some comments. I'd love to hear from you.